So there's my loop. So now I've got all my pieces cut out. Now I'm ready to do my fiber fill. Taking your stocking, so your main fabric, and one of your cuffs, you're going to cut out your batting. You're going to be folding your batting, again with a partial fold. Take your stocking cuff and you're going to place it along the side. Okay. It's not too important that the bottom is a total inch, but more around the outside. Then place your stocking right in here. Okay. You're going to be cutting 2 of the battings out, so just be careful. Again, I've got about a 2 finger gap between those. And pin it in place. Now, some students really like to draw a line around it. I just eyeball, and I kind of just cut what I think is about two finger widths apart, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect. We will be trimming all of this batting off after. So if you're more than an inch, that's fine. Just try not to go less. Don't cut out your notches because it doesn't matter. So now I've cut them out. Keep your extra batting because you're going to be using it for test runs, okay? You can take these little bits off and put them into the garbage because I don't think they can be recycled. Okay. Leave this one pinned to it and then just pop that into your box. You're going to pin the Fiberfill to the wrong side of each stocking. Pin from the center and the outsides. So what we need to do is we're going to unpin this. And the top one can stay. We don't need to do anything with that. Leave it the way it is and pin it again. Now with your other main material, you're going to place it on top of this one. And you're going to have to flip your Fiberfill over. And now place it. And pin it in place. Now we're ready to do our sewing. The next thing it says, we need to tape our presser foot with green tape. And then we're going to sew with a wide zigzag all the way around. We want to attach the batting onto our stocking. So we're going to go as close as we can to the edge all the way around, including the top. We need to take some green masking tape and we need to place it underneath our presser foot. The reason is when we sew our batting, we want to make sure that our presser foot top parts aren't going to get caught on the batting. So you're going to take a little piece of green tape and you're going to place it underneath. Make sure you have put your machine into safety mode. Place the green tape underneath and then fold it over. You also want to make sure that you haven't gone in where your needle will go. Okay, so leave that area free. Just let this kind of hang out the way it is. The next thing, you need to set your machine to a 5C3. And you're going to stitch right along this edge. You're going to line up sort of the center of the presser foot with your edge of your material. When you get to the top, you're going to have to stretch your material just a little bit so that we don't create a tuck. So that's what it's going to look like. You're just stitching all the way around. What you want to do is just make sure you're catching it as close to the edge because we will be stitching later on. If you go over a little bit, that's fine. But what we want to avoid is taking too much onto the Fiberfill because that will get cut. Now that we have both stitched, we need to trim the excess Fiberfill away from the edge. So you're just going to take your scissors again and you're just going to trim it. Be really careful. Now we're on to sewing the stocking. You're going to pin stockings right sides together and you're going to stitch with an 5A 2.5 at a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. What's really important is that you're going to leave the top open. Right sides together, lining everything up. Line up your top first. Really make sure your edges are even around this curve. And now we're ready to sew. So 5A 2.5, using my 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, and I'm still going to keep my tape on there. You're going to start at one of your edges, it doesn't matter, but do not sew across the top. Back stitch in the beginning and the end. So now we've sewn our stocking. The next part says you're going to cut V's into the curve only. So if you look at the diagram here, these little V's cut out. And you're going to do that right along this curve. And the reason is we want our stocking to lay nice and even. You can see that nothing's pulling. If I didn't do that and I turned it around, you're going to see there's a whole bunch of wrinkling. Because we have a curve, we need to reduce the seam allowance so that it's going to lay nice. And one of the ways we can do that is by clipping V's into it. So right where the curve is, right in here, we're going to start from about there and go to here, and we're going to clip V's. You're going to take the tip of your scissors, so make sure that they're sharp scissors, and you're going to clip in like that. Do not cut your stitching. So you want to make sure that you're close to your stitching, but not too close that you're actually going to cut into it. And you're going to continue. So now we've released sort of the tension, and it's going to allow that curvature to go better. The next thing it says is that we want to trim the seam allowance from the toe as well as the heel. And again, the reason is we have a curve going outwards, and we're going to have all this material bunched out, and our toe and our heel is not going to lay as nice. So we want to trim about half of the seam allowance from our toe and from our heel. So I've got my clips, my toe's been trimmed, and my heel has been trimmed. The next thing it says is press the top seam open, and you use the press cloth. And that's this seam here. We want to press that seam open and this seam open. And we only need to press it open until the clips and this part here just about halfway through. Place your press cloth over top. If you don't, we're going to melt the Fiberfill. And press. Only about 5 seconds or so is fine. We don't want to go crazy. Okay, so it's going to lay open and then repeat on the other side. So now we've got our stocking here. So now we've got our stocking right here. The next set of instructions say to turn our stocking the right way around and push out the toe and the heel. So you're going to take your hand and you're just going to push it out. Make sure it's just nice and smooth. Okay, and same with that curve. So what we're looking for is that we've got a nice curvature to the toe, to the heel, and right in there. Now you're going to put that aside for now. Now you're going to work on the lining, and you're going to really do exactly the same thing, except for we're not sewing on the batting. Because your two pieces of broadcloth were cut out together, leave them the way they are and give them a pin. And what you're going to do is you're going to sew with a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance first.